presentation because not all the contents or the details of each of the subtopics shall also be presented, because I think we don't have the luxury of time next meeting since we are going to have the final exam yet in the afternoon. Okay, so before that, I want to share now the outline so that we can continue on with the discussion, and later you can also continue on with the workshop. So that is what is expected of us this day. So is it now visible?
Yes po,
Yes
Doc.
po, Doc.
So it says program development. This is day 3 discussion. So let me proceed right away with the first part, which is the introduction. So based on the literatures that you have gathered since day 1, papasok ngayon yung discussion ninyo about introducing your topic. So in research, we call this the problem setting part, the introduction part. So I would assume that you all know how to write an introduction using your citations and using the problem gaps that you have identified in your topic of choice. However, in addition to all these basic knowledge and skills in writing an introduction, you need to highlight the following items because this is program development, and you need to come up with all these ABCD as well as part of the initial planning that is expected na natapos nyo nang gawin. So I think we have done this more or less in the previous workshops. So for letter A, for example, we will call that part identifying information. So in this part, you are going to present all the problem gaps, the current situations that we have done already in the past workshop. As I have promised, the previous activities will not go to waste, but they are good inputs in the coming up of the whole program itself. So here we go. Identifying information. So what do you know about the topic of choice? What is there? What is there in terms of other people, organization, and other places or country doing in terms of that issue or that concern that you have embraced? What does the literature say about it? What are the gaps? What have been done in terms of addressing the gaps? And what else is there to do in order to help solve the gaps? So all these things are under identifying information. Letter B is your program title. Definitely, because this is a program, you need to have a label for it. So here comes the creativity of the student in terms of creating a good, catchy, um, shall I say, attention-seeking title or label. So you must be very creative in order to attract also your beneficiaries. Like for example, yung ating current na DOH program on breast bakuna. So that's an example of a program title, a general program title, which is meaningful for the Filipinos by the term rest back, di ba? Or fight back. And then coin that with bakuna or vaccine. So that is an example of a simple, catchy, creative, relevant title. So kayo din, mag-iisip din kayo and put that under letter B. Aside from identifying, of course, the main label or the main title, you need to discuss in depth what is the meaning, why did you come up with it, what is the inspiration, and why is it considered to be an attractive, creative, relevant title for your program. So, kumbaga, merong label at merong justification. Description and justification. Letter C, components. Here you need to introduce the scope of the whole program that we will develop. So starting from the first part, which is introduction, up to the end part, which I will be presenting a little later. So you need to discuss the salient points of each of the components of your program development process. So dito siya papasok sa letter C. So one by one, i-discuss natin yung different components. Then letter D will be your duration. So obviously, it speaks of the time element that the program um, is expected to run. So it depends, it varies from one program to another, obviously. And the program developer shall have the freedom to judge wisely the expected duration of the whole program process. At the same time, it needs conscientiousness on the part of the program developer because we just don't identify the timing or the duration of the program, but it has to be embedded on a wise judgment whether to fast track everything depending on how we intend to solve the issue or the concern we embrace, or we need to prolong everything in order to achieve the objectives or goals of the program. So there has to be that wise decision on the part of the program developer in identifying the time frame. So in the duration, you don't just identify the time frame, but also you need to discuss why choose that time frame, say 1 semester or 1 school year, for example, or 4 years, depende sa program that you have identified. If you are a community-based, depende din. No? May mga multifactorial phenomenon na papasok dyan sa program decision. So you need to justify also why choose that particular time frame. And letter E is your proponent. So obviously that is you as the main program developer of the chosen topic. And you don't just name yourself there, but kind of present um, a description of the proponent. So for example, papasok yung mga ilang items siguro from your current curriculum vitae. Why mo naisip yan? Because halimbawa, I am a school administrator, I am a nurse, I am a clinical instructor, I am a level coordinator, things like those, no? Papasok yan. But we still use the third person pronoun here. So the proponent is, she is, ganyan. And i-discuss natin doon bakit tayo affiliated sa concept or sa issue that we are talking about. And then what have we done professionally and personally in terms of addressing the problem prior to this program development course? Kumbaga, has this been your long-term, long-time advocacy papasok dito. So if we talk about, shall we say, tuberculosis management, what was part of your history, professional history that made you aware of this issue? What were you doing since that time about this issue? Were you able to perform research previously about it? And then what happened? Have you been invited to talk about this issue elsewhere? So papasok dito lahat. So entirely, the description of the proponent talks about the experience of the proponent within the reality of the problem or the gap being addressed. Any questions so far? 1, 2, 3, wala. So let me proceed. Number 2 is executive summary. In the executive summary, you need to synthesize the core of the program. So it kind of resonates with the abstract that we have with our thesis and in our dissertation. But it's kind of different also from the introduction. Diba? So the introduction sets the problem, gives out what is currently done, with the issue, what has been done, what is currently done, etc., and what are the gaps. With the executive summary, you need to highlight and synthesize the salient points of the whole program itself. So parang in a nutshell, you need to introduce what happens with the program. Okay, I think that's clear enough. What is being addressed, how it should be addressed, what are the main ingredients of the program, how should it be successful, what are the possibilities of failure, sasama dito sa executive summary. Okay. Number 3, background and justification. So this is a long discussion because this resonates with the RRL of your thesis and dissertation. So I remember you doing a workshop with this last day 1. So again, magagamit natin yung mga input na yon from our literatures. So dito papasok na lahat ng mga details of the background. Anong nangyari, parang it's the developing story from the introduction. Okay, so papasok lahat yung mga items that you have considered in your literature. And there is a justification because you need to rationalize why these things are happening and why has this concern happened, ano yung mga limitations like government support, absence of laws or legislatures about the certain issue, non-availability of organizations that will help address whether government or non-government. Lahat yon papasok na sa justification and sa background. That is the reason why you decided to come up with a program to help. Okay, so that is always the mindset. Why come up with a program? The reason being, in general, is to help solve the program or the problem. Number 4, set of objectives. I know that nurses are good in terms of making objectives. So I highlighted that these set of objectives need to be behavioral in nature, but also we need not forget the cognitive and the affective type of objectives. I just highlighted behavioral because as a program developer, we need to be conscious about the action component. Walang program na walang action component. So, a particular focus has to be given to more behavioral objectives rather than cognitive objectives because it gears towards really action component where the beneficiaries need to perform anything. Remember the type of program that we have discussed? So lahat yun may behavioral component, whether that is institutional, that is knowledge-based, etc. So this is a set of objective na ipe-present lang. Number 5, somehow this really is for me the most difficult part of the format or the outline strategies. I just divided this into two preparatory and implementation phase. So sa strategy, di-discuss ninyo that you are planning to do this and to do that, which are subdivided into two phases. You have preparatory. For example, papasok yung organizing committee. The program developer will organize the creation of a committee, depende sa inyo, and would need the help of the following individuals and expertise, parang ganon. Sa preparatory phase also papasok yung mga meetings, mga planning, yung session natin sa planning dito papasok, no? Ano yung ginamit nyo na mga needs analysis survey? So papasok dito yung workshop natin on SWOT analysis, papasok dito yung pag-create ninyo ng expository and argumentative essays. Papasok din dito yung strategic framework that you have used. So those are just examples of activities that you can do on the preparatory phase. But should